It's the night of the 1,000 years full moon, and 4 warriors are on a quest to stop the Dark Lords from resurrecting an evil sorceress. This is Arcus Odyssey!
Arcus Odyssey is one of 12 games included in Evercade Cartridge 23, Renovation Collection 1. This is the 4th game in the Arcus series, which was developed by Wolf Team, and it all started in 1988, where the original Arcus title was released for several Japanese computers. Arcus 2, Silent Symphony, and Arcus 3 followed in 1989 and 1991 respectively, and while Arcus 2 was released for almost all the same computers as the original, Arcus 3 was only released for the NEC PC-98. These first 3 games would be remade into one package for Sega's Mega CD in 1993 titled Arcus 1-2-3, which was again a Japanese-only release. Arcus Odyssey was released in 1991 in Japan and North America for the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive, and this is the version of the game that is included in this collection. This game was also released in Japan for the Sharp X68000 and Super Famicom. The Super Famicom version was renamed to Arcus Spirits and was released 2 years later in 1993. Renovation had plans to release the game to the Super Nintendo in North America as well, however, the release was cancelled when Sega acquired Renovation. That prototype version of the game was dumped, so the ROM is out there if you can find it. The Arcus in the game's title refers to the land in which the game series takes place. I'm not really familiar with the storylines of the first 3 games, but it's entirely possible that the only thing that links the series together is that they all take place in Arcus. As far as I could tell, the story in Arcus Odyssey doesn't connect in any way to events from previous games in the series. The intro depicts events from 1,000 years ago, where the evil sorceress Castromira attempts to use her dark magic to destroy the world so it can be rebuilt to her liking. Although many tried to stop her, there was only one person powerful enough to stop the sorceress, Princess Lidi. After an intense battle that lasted days, Princess Lidi defeated Castromira and banished her to the Dark World. To prevent her escape, a magical sword known as the Power of Lidi was forged to seal her away forever. This sword had been guarded by the kings of Arcus throughout the centuries. However, the followers of Castromira, the Dark Lords, have now managed to steal the sword and will attempt to free the evil sorceress. It's now up to 4 warriors to take on the journey to defeat the Dark Lords and recover the sword before the seal is broken and prevent the return of Castromira. The previous games in this series have all been turn-based RPGs. However, this game ditches that in favor for a more action RPG approach. The game is actually more heavy on the action than it is on the RPG elements, as you and optionally a second player are basically navigating maze-like levels from an overhead isometric view with the goal of finding the exit. Sometimes just finding the exit is enough, however some levels will require some tasks to be accomplished before the exit can be accessed. There's not really much of an RPG element to this game, aside from collecting usable items that will aid you in your quest, but you can only hold 5 items at a time. Your characters can level up, but it's really only after you defeat bosses that you earn items to increase your power and health. You can manually upgrade your magic with the magic crystals that you've collected, but how much you can upgrade is dependent on your character. There are 4 selectable characters that each have a unique attack method, magical abilities, and different levels of health, requiring different skill levels to master. There's Jeddah, the sword-fighting knight with the vacuum wave sword technique. Aaron, the chainsword-wielding warrior. Diana, the bow and arrow user that can fire arrows that bounce off of walls. And Bede, the magic-using scholar who primarily attacks with fireballs. Each character's abilities can extend further than that, but that's how they start out. Along the way, you'll encounter some NPC characters that'll help you out, and some will actually join you temporarily in your quest if you can find them. Now, I've known about this game, but I never played it before, and I always figured that this game was some sort of RPG, but it's not really what I thought it was. It's definitely more action-based than I thought, as I ran around the game's levels, constantly hammering away on the fire button because it was a good way to eliminate monsters before they could attack. The only downside to this is if dialogue starts appearing, you'll accidentally forward through it before you can read it. If you're thinking of using a controller with turbo fire with the Evercade VS for attacking, it might not work out so well since you have to hold down the attack button in order to shield yourself from attacks, and I kind of found that a bit weird, so part of the game's challenge is knowing when to dodge and block attacks. The in-game menu has an unusual control scheme as well. A button is used to open the menu, and then the same button is used to select an item, and then a different button is used to close the menu. But then the same button used to close the menu is also the same one you would press to use items in Magic. It felt kinda weird and it took me a while to get used to. You only get one life, and if you die, the game does allow you to continue, but all the way at the start of level, which can be a bit of a setback. But on the plus side, you can continue as many times as you want. Despite a few negatives, I did like the game, and it does offer a bit of replayability with multiple unique characters, and you may also discover previously missed items and events in subsequent playthroughs. So for the Renovation Collection 1 ranking, I'm going to put Arcus Odyssey on rank A. And if we look at our ranking of all Evercade games, let's see, I've got to take Arcus Odyssey, scroll it all the way to A, and let's find out where we're going to put it. And I believe it's going to fit in nicely right here, in between Night Stalker for the Intellivision and the arcade version of Warlords. At the end of each of these videos, I'd like to point out any tips, tricks, codes, cheats, or any other fun facts regarding the game I just talked about. And in Arcus Odyssey, there really wasn't much info of any of that stuff, other than a tip about duplicate inventory where you can start the game with 2 players and then just let 1 player die. The game does have a password system, and there are a ton of passwords you can look up online for each character, starting at different levels with different items, and I wasn't going to list any here because there are just so many and it's very easy to look up, but I did stumble upon one that was quite interesting. If you enter the password as all E's, you'll start on level 5 with Jetta with 5 dolls of life. A doll of life will resurrect you when you die, so I thought it was a pretty odd password because I didn't run across anything else like that. And that'll wrap it up for Arcus Odyssey. Certainly not a bad game at all. Next time we'll be looking at Beast Wrestler from the same cartridge, Renovation Collection 1. See you next time.